Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's Monday Night Plastic Crack Podcast, Season 4, Episode 25. I'm going to say it again. How do we get to Season 4? Episode 25, I have no idea.
How are we all still friends? That's what I want to know.
I
don't know. I don't know.
I have no idea. I mean, you know, it was fine when we never even met each other, but when we actually met up, we still carried on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. You'll notice we're a man down this week. It seems to be a tradition. I think.
Tell them why. Tell them why.
Well, Ken may just been henpecked into doing some plastering rather than coming on here tonight. That may be what have happened.
Well, I bet what happened really is that Ken promised that it would be done by a certain time. It then sat around either fiddling with his trains or fiddling with his 3D printer or himself. And then it got to about 2:00 and he actually started. And then by the time Laura got home, he'd probably done one tiny corner and it was uneven. I bet it was uneven. Or he'd plastered over a socket. Or something like that.
Or he sold the plaster for some magic beans.
Was it IKEA plaster? I wonder. I don't know. I mean, it's yeah. Yes, he's plastering, so it's all good. It's fine. We can do without him. It's fine.
I think we should give a big congratulations out to.
Oh, well done.
There we go.
Congratulations.
Hey, congratulations.
Oh,
well done indeed. Oh, I'll be there next year.
For a wedding.
This is getting daughters.
If you're out celebrating weddings, does that mean you could put us on at a wedding?
Oh, Ken let us down with that, didn't he? He was going to live stream and then the wedding. He bottled it again. He bottled it again. Oh well. Anyway. Good evening, everybody. Thanks to everyone watching and everybody watching on Catch Up. Much appreciated, as always. We love you equally. And thank you to our friends at Boards and Swords for supporting the stream as usual. Reminder, if you... I can't find the button, but if you go... if you use the PCP...
That happened to me last week. I couldn't find anything.
I just gave up. I couldn't even be asked. There we go. Martin did it. Enter PCP 5, you get an additional 5% on all the goodness that they already have at the shop.
I have a feeling there's going to be some orders going in this week or next week, judging by what I've seen in the news section. That's my feeling. So, yes, remember, as Dom says, head over there and give them your custom and your money.
Is that weird? Is that weird shit that's going to be coming up?
Maybe.
Probably
maybe the best weird money can buy with a 5% discount.
That's the only kind of weird people should be buying with a 5% discount. It's the best kind of weird.
Absolutely,
we love weird. So, gentlemen, how are we doing? You had a good week, a couple of weeks. I haven't spoken to you for a couple of weeks. I wasn't on holiday, by the way. I just have to correct that. I was not on holiday. I was away. I was working. I watched the first 10 minutes because I knew that was the bit you'd slag me off. And then I didn't bother watching anymore after that.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how it went for the next hour and 45 minutes. So, then there was 5 minutes of Ken being ranted at. I can't remember what it was about, but yeah, no, it's good. I've had a really good week actually. It's been really nice.
Fantastic. Well, let's start with you. What have you been up to then? What have you been doing?
Oh, I've been doing quite a bit. So, you're gonna make me find my stuff. There we go. So the one of the main things I have been doing, and it's got rid of my bloody picture. Go with Steve. Go with Steve.
All right, Steve. What have you been up to, mate? I saw you've been up to all kinds of weird shit again.
Yes, I've been. Let's have a look. I've been doing a bit of everything. Let's start off with the scenery because, excuse me. So I've been doing a lot of that necromunda scenery, and it made me realise that I need more scenery, specifically for sort of.
You're the man that said you didn't really like scenery.
I don't. I hate making it. I'd rather buy it and then improve on it than make it myself. So, where should we start? Let's start with these. Because I bought these ages ago when What a Cowboy came out. These.
Oh, yeah.
That's just
barrels and stuff.
That's just 3D printed scatter terrain from
drink.
Oh god, yeah, shit.
I'm on 6% tonight, so it's not going to be as bad as last week.
5.6.
Yes, I got those off Amazon. literally the week what a cowboy came out, I thought I'm going to need some kind of scatter, and I did a painted 2 as like a test thing. And I put my way in it and then forgot about it. And on Friday after work, I painted that lot in 90 minutes. And it's just literally dry brushing the entire thing. Do it. And they really, really good quality. Really, I actually left a review, and I rarely do this. I actually left a review on Amazon of the product because it was so good. For scale, there's the Nexus and Landsnets. And they're great. They're big chunky pieces.
Nice.
Loads of detail, dead easy to paint. In fact,
those.
I might even pick up another box because they're really good. So what else was I doing? So I got thinking about rivers. I've got a plastic river set that I've had for years, but it's crap, to be fair. And I was going to repaint it because it looks like the most fake looking river in the entire world. I remembered when I was really, really young and living in Belfast, I had a cardboard road. And then so I thought, well, I did have a cardboard, it used to interlock and everything. It was brilliant. It's one of my favorite toys when I was a kid. But I digress. Then I remembered Battle Systems do that card scenery.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if they did any, and they do a box. It's one side's a river, and flip it over. You've got like fantasy cobbled pathways.
Yeah. Kev, who I play against, he uses them. Really, really good.
They are good. So last week I just on a whim I picked the river set up. Now I thought they looked a bit. Obviously, it's cardboard. It's a bit flat, isn't it? So I thought what I'd do is use a bit of clump foliage and just build the bases up like that.
That's cool. Nice, good. I like it.
And dead easy. And somebody asked me as well in the Facebook group, how did I do it? So I bought some Woodland Scene, it's clump foliage, but I didn't want to put PVA glue on it because I know that it'd just warp. So I used Pritt stick.
If it works,
just honestly, just great big globules of Pritt stick, and just pressed in the clump foliage. And I was expecting to get up the next day, and it to be just a complete and utter total disaster zone.
Yeah,
warp and stuff. No, it's set really, really well. And there's a curved section there.
Well, that's really cool.
That's really good. I like that.
And I did the whole thing in one night. The entire there's over 6 feet of a river, all clump foliaged up. But good thing is you get river endings as well and little fords. It's a great box. So I'm quite chuffed with that. And on the same time I did that, I got something that I've been after for years, and it's quite a simple thing, but I've always wanted it. And it's the stone bridge from Warlord Games.
Oh, that's a really good model, that is, isn't it? I like it.
And again, it was built and painted in no time at all. Just such a simple kit, and all it was dry brushing. No ink, no nothing, just a dry brush.
Awesome. Are you not going to do a turnipped up version of the river? Because it just looks far too clean for turnip games.
Yeah.
Can you just sling a whole load of mud on it and shove?
Yeah, just sling a load of crap and root vegetables and rotting awfulness all over it. It should be fine. It looks too clean for turnip. They want it to be brown, like the Mersey. Let's have a look. Okay, so I mentioned last week on the podcast that I was going to finish something by the end of the week, and it was the outstanding orcs from my Blood Bowl team. Do you know what? I bloody did it. Look at that! Yay!
Hey, well done.
They look fantastic. Fantastic.
Cheers,
how many years are we?
7 years to paint those.
7 years.
7 years and a new edition of the game. What's worrying is that it took me 7 years to paint 10, and I painted 2 in a day. Oh, come on. We'll keep it realistic then, Matt. Turnip's not that bad. But they're done. I'm quite chuffed. And
what's the longest period you've had, Martin, of figures that have been in production? In the, I don't mean just sort of sitting there completely raw, but the fact you'd already sort of at least made a start on them. And everyone in the chat, how's the longest? Because 7 years seems quite a long time.
I've currently, I think When did the latest edition of Muskets and Tomahawks come out? During COVID.
Yeah, during COVID.
Yeah. So I've got 6 of the Canadian militia, which I've just sat here. I started painting them, and then they've just sat there, and I keep on looking at them and going, "Oh, I'll do it." And I keep moving. I'll do them. Then I moved them to another box to make room for something else. And it's because I like doing all like the little patterns on the hoods and the stuff, and I actually quite enjoyed painting them. They're nice models. They're really nice models. I can't really think of a reason not to, but there's always something else.
But
I think they just sit there.
The reason I stopped painting them because I hate painting red, and I stupidly chose red armor.
Yeah, I was going to say, why did you choose red then? You fool.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, after completing those, I was quite happily chuffed with myself. So I've been on a bit of a Blood Bowl bonanza. So I picked up the Undead team. Griff Oberwald, a Troll, and Varag Ghoul Chewer. And then yesterday, I put these up now. So these are 2 that I finished. They're my
Oh, they are awesome.
So they're not very good in game. They're lovely figures. Dom, I would pay you to build this box.
Is it that way? Oh no, I don't want to know then. La 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 la.
Some of them have got separate things that you put on their shoes, like little wings.
Sod off, Steve.
But
I didn't. Why did I fit? I finished them. I did finish them. They're just awful.
Yeah, so I painted them yesterday. Just sat down and painted. Absolutely brilliant figures to paint. Just so nice. And tonight I'm working on 2 skeleton linemen. I've got a mummy, a ghoul, and a white blitzer. So I'm very much into Blood Bowl at the moment. But when I was looking through all my bits and pieces, I found 2 Napoleonic figures that I painted. And so I had to do something to them.
Oh God!
Did you paint them just to make that meme?
No. They were painted ages ago. They were just. I found them in a box. The French one was. I sat down one day and said, "How quickly can I paint just a French Napoleonic like one figure?" And it took me about an hour to do that. I thought I'm never going to use them, so I just put some tufts on them. I just thought it was quite amusing. So they're the last Napoleonic figures I've painted, and I think one was the French one was too. Yeah, it would actually hurt doing a full army like that, painting them all up in like the actual colours, and then putting tufts and mud and crap all over them. But yeah, I thought it might have. I was going to do a Ken and what Ken suggested and post them in one of the Napoleonic Facebook groups, and then just brace for impact as they completely lose their marbles in pointing out why the cuffs are wrong or something. But yeah, that's when. Oh, and I also built that the weekend as well, which is the new SDKFZ 222 Warlord Games.
That looks a lovely little model. That
it is. It's a nice little. I mean, a bit of an odd way to get the gun in the turret. I'll be honest, but very strange. But yeah, it works very, very, and full of detail. Really looking forward to painting that. It's gone for my to my DAC edition. That was a birthday present. Cheers, Ian. But yeah, that's me. Scenery and Blood Bowl and weird stuff.
I just love the fact that you haven't even come close to some of the comments in here about how many years people have been working on. I mean, Walkabout 13, nothing.
13,
nothing. 20 years. Anybody?
20 years.
20 years. Leslie, 20 to 30 years. 7-year war, 15 mil. Well, I mean, 7-year wars, 15 mil figures is pretty hard to do. Robin, you're pathetic for it. I mean, 2013, that's nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's some brilliant ones though. Look at this. We've got Red Steph, I got some Essex ECWs. John bought me for my 18th. I'm
bloody hell.
February. That is pretty impressive. Shrink, 46 years half painted minifigs. I salute you all. That's all I'm going to say.
Can I just say that 7 years doesn't sound so utterly horrendous anymore?
7 years is nothing compared to some of these.
Okay, 7 years, one edition. There's some people have been through multiple prime ministers and a new king.
Oh dear. Ian says he's got some early Citadel fantasy from 1981 that started but never finished. Yeah, probably worth some money now, Ian.
What are people's reasons? Mine was because I hated the colour. I say I can't stand painting red. So if I'd have done
the colour you chose.
Yes, idiot choice of colour. And the 90% armour anyway. So just
it makes it even more stupid.
I know. I don't even like the colour. I don't even like the colour of paint of the humans as well, because they're green and green ochre. Just mad times.
Awesome. Oh dear. What about you then, Martin? What have you been up to? You ready now to show us?
Yeah, well, I'm ready. I was ready to start with because I was trying to be, a good one. I got all my photos.
I noticed you loaded everything
really early.
Yeah.
And then when you guys put your stuff up, it clearly just didn't like mine. So what I've been doing is finishing a big push of stuff for Rangers of Shadow Deep, which we're hopefully going to start playing in the next couple of weeks. But this is the one where it's miniature agnostic, even though North Star do make their own sort of range of characters and stuff and enemies you can put in. You can find anything. So I decided that I just wanted to drink because I used entirely 3D models. But there's good reason. For some reason, I channeled my inner Kenneth, and I thought, how cheap can I do this with the printer? Because it wasn't, I didn't want to go and splurge loads on new minis and things like that. So I found a lot of stuff for free, those rats, those zombies, and then I found these because who doesn't like giant spiders? So I found these, and these were tiny.
They are proper lovely.
I scaled them up, so they would fit on a 5p. Those are on 40mm washers now. So I scaled them right up. My daughters like them. Haley does not, because I just left them sort of sitting around in various ways. But these, along with the zombies and the rats, are essentially like, your 1 XP enemies that turn up in pretty much everything, So I figured if I just, if I can do as much as I can, for free, because people put up free files, not ones that are copied from any kind of popular line. People have just designed simple minis, and then obviously because I'm a Reconquer Patreon, I decided to use a lot of his models that I can't use in my First Crusade project to fill in. So you need some villagers who are always running away from stuff. So I did these this week as well. So I used them. So you can rescue them, and also because I drew them, I did the cart and the trough as well.
That trough looks suspicious, doesn't it?
It does. Speaking of Thames water,
that looks more like one of your turnip rivers, there, Steve.
Oh yeah, turnip juice,
turnip juice river. But no, that was a lot of fun. So again, they turn up in a lot of different missions. An event could happen, and you search a building, and there's a survivor, and then you got to get them out, or you've got to escort them. So. And then the same thing happens with guards. You can hire guards, but often there'll be some NPCs in there as well. So I use some of the later Reconquer stuff that's just a little bit too late for the First Crusade. And I decided to sort of fantasy them a little bit and just sort of do my own sort of coat of arms on them, which I thought was just a nice straightforward. And I thought, why not do the shields yellow? Because why not? I'll say this.
I like the wear of them. They look really cool.
I did some chipping effect on them, sort of stuff you do, and then I slapped different washes and weathering on them, because these 4 guys have been out in a in a watchtower for many years, and that's it. It's just the 4 of them, and they occasionally help the local community, which is why everyone's running away, because clearly they're shit and they can't those spiders. I just quite like it. I thought if I could do like a simple coat of arms, in livery, then if there's anything Oh, cheers, David. Thank you. If there's anything that I want to add later, you could just copy. So the guy in the red cloak, I was like, he looks kind of captainy. So I just made sure the other ones didn't have a cloak, because clearly the man in the cloak is in charge.
If they're not pointing, they're in a cloak. That's the rule.
Exactly. So there we go. And then I decided I needed my ranger. Now I'm going to be playing this hopefully with Robin, Miller, and Matt, and they've all gone and got their own models. I decided again. I was like, well, the Reconquer. There's quite a lot of nice ones from Reconquer. So I went through all the ones that have been sent out, and I just sat on this guy. I decided to go for an older gentleman, and I made this guy. I thought he looked
awesome.
And I couldn't decide whether to give him a spear, but I know he's already got a sword on his belt. But I thought I'd have another one, so I was quite pleased with all of that. So that, along with,
can I say that basing is, you've upped your game on the old foliage there.
Wow. I figured he was a ranger. I was like, he needs to be in the wild.
Yeah.
The guards don't like going into like the thick of it. The villagers, they're running, they'll just go wherever. But yeah, he did. So no, I got the bull rushes out and all the wood effects and stuff.
Full on shrubbery there. Well done.
There is, yeah. You can't see his feet, so didn't really bother painting them. Just primed them, but that was it. It's either white or ginger beards with me. Yes, that's it.
Absolutely. You know what? I'm the same. It's either if any figure's got a beard, I always paint it grey for some reason. I don't know, grey or white. I don't know why.
It's got to have a veteran look. They've lived this long. So that was what I did for Ages of Shadow Deep. So that means I've now finished 12 giant spiders, 5 villagers, 4 guards, my ranger, 12 zombies, and 15 giant rats.
And
all of which have been So that's all, and that's cost. And I worked it out. That cost me, and I am doing a Ken here, a grand total in resin of about £9 to print. I'm chatting. Yes,
Ken would be extremely proud.
Yeah, but I didn't stop there, because I had to go at something else with one of my mini. Now you probably saw the mini I posted up last week. I know I'll send a picture of it to you, Don, which was the art and melee archer, and I wanted to show that he can be a little bit more versatile. So I painted him up holding a standard and a warhammer.
I love that.
Nice.
As Miller kindly pointed out to me when I sent him a photo of this, yes, the left hand does look like he's got some kind of malformed abnormality. That's because I slopped super glue over it and I couldn't be bothered to it. But hey, it's the 15th century. He's just a bit inbred, all right. So he's there. So he was a lot of fun to do. He's in the service of Lord Zeus, who I've painted up with one of the other ones. So he's got his livery flag there. And then here's the whole band together, so which should be going live this week over on. So there they are. That's the four. That's the 4 minis. You can get the variant one with the helmeted head for the Lord. So actually, that's all Lord Zeus. So you've got his personal standard on the left. You've got Lord Zeus himself and his livery there. Then you got his banner bearer, and then I decided to paint the other guy up as someone completely different.
Awesome.
So that's all ready to go. I was finishing off the listings today. I reckon that if I can get it all done, it will be live by the end of the week. And then to finish it off, I had one other thing I went and did. I went to Norwich. Norwich. But I took my mum, because I really like and she does the Shard Lake novels by C.J. Sanson, about the sort of the lawyer in the Tudor period who just kind of gets caught up in everything horrible. And the last book he wrote, there's another one coming out, is set during Ket's Rebellion. It's called Tombland. And you could do a walk around Norwich. And so I got this for her birthday, and I treated her. So we went there, we stayed over, had a very nice meal, and then walked around the sites of Ket's Rebellion in Norwich. Now, I've done a lot of work in Norwich over the years, but there are some places here that I'd never been to. You got to see sort of, the bridges that they actually sort of had fought across, and where they stole the Earl of Warwick's cannons and it turned them against them. You also got to see where they pulled down some cloisters to make room to fight the Royal Army, because they were worried about getting hemmed in. And then we walked up here, which is a place called Ket's Heights, which is where they probably made their camp, because you can see they have a nice view over the city. And then
the only hill in Norwich.
Yeah, pretty much. It basically is. And then we just had a really nice towards it. I highly recommend it if you go there and you're interested. Though it has made me really want to do a Tudor rebellions, because there were so many of these things. I was sitting there going, and also we know that Piano Miniatures has got those Peasants' War stuff. So does the Assault Group. They actually make a Ket's Rebellion, a few models for that. So and then you've got Steelfist Miniatures make those nice dollies
to go with the Perrys.
Yeah. So
I think there was it War Games Illustrated? I think had a nice article about it as well. If you wanted,
No, I don't want to read any more about it because things will happen. So,
Martin was already mention of the landscapes. That always cracks me up.
No, they talked about the landsnecks. So the thing was, the first army that turned up under the Marquis of Northampton and the Earl of Sheffield, he turned up with 1,500 men. Thought he was going to be fighting a rabble, and this was the point that the chap was making, was the fact that these guys could use cannons suggested the rebels, that is obviously suggested there were some military minded people in there, because they were able to use them incredibly effectively, and they didn't have time to do loads of training, so there had to be some planning and military minded people in there. So whether they saw service in the army in France and then they come back, so they beat them really quickly, and the Earl of Sheffield fell off his horse and then took his helmet off and got killed by a butcher with a so we saw where he snuffed it, and then the yes, absolutely, and then the Earl of Warwick, but not the proper Earl of Warwick, a different Earl of Warwick. He turned up and bought 2,000, 3,000 landsnecks with him, armed with arquebuses and big double-handed swords. The rebels, when they decided to actually fight, chained up loads of the gentlemen that they'd kidnapped, imprisoned, from Norwich, chained them up in front, apparently allegedly chained them up in front of their lines, thinking, they're not going to shoot, so the landsnecks just shot through them, and then they chopped the rebels up, basically. And then they wanted mass reprisals, the higher classes against the lower classes, and the Earl of Warwick showed mercy, not because he particularly cared. He just simply said, "If we kill them all, who will work the fields?" So. Anyway,
I just like the idea of these the rebels going, right, who are we facing today? And all of a sudden you've got all these gaudily dressed landsconnects with arquebuses and God knows what else, and massive cod pieces.
Absolutely, they must have thought, I don't know what the landsnecks were. Our luck's in here. This isn't going to take very long. But they've been really successful up until that point. They'd beaten the town, the Norwich defenders. They'd seen off a royal army. They'd had been incredibly successful, and then of course they fought in open ground for some reason against an army of landsnecks, which doesn't really seem very sensible.
How many times do you read these things where someone does something just so incredibly stupid? You think, surely you should have realised that was going to be the outcome.
What I don't understand about the whole thing, is that Ket wasn't a peasant. He was he was actually quite a well-to-do gentleman, and he owned a lot of land in Wyndham. And essentially what happened was the peasants turned up and started pulling down one of his rivals' fences, and he came out and said, "No, go and do it to Ket." So they went over to Ket, started doing it to him, and he came out and went, "I'll pull up my own fences." And then he led the rebellion. But there have been loads of rebellions at this point, and everyone knows what happens to the leader of rebellion. So why would you voluntarily do it? Because surely they must know there's no way that they're going to accept the terms. Like, they sent 29 demands to the king, which was like, we want our sheep to be the grazer of their life. They're like, that's going to work, isn't it?
Well, that's what I mean. It's like, come on, just go and ask for something easy, like we'd like Thursdays off, please, or something. That they're going to do. It's like, rather than just we want to change the world entirely, they're never going to agree.
Exactly.
Never going to agree. Oh dear God. I agree with you, Wendell. We should start a trend, alternative 2D cardboard armies rather than all this bloody 3D stuff. Sorry, drink. There's so much of it, it's ridiculous.
I won't say you don't want that package then.
All right then. My God, Dom, your bribe level's low, isn't it?
You know me. I've got zero willpower. And if I could ever work out how one of those printers works, I'd probably get one as well. Well, I did have one.
Can I just say I'm doing some research.
Oh Jesus, you as well, Steve. Steve, I thought you'd be the one. Hold out.
No, I don't know. I'm just weak, but I am looking into it. I am looking into it.
They are approaching the point where even I could work out how to use them, so you never know. Anyway, what have I been on this week? I showed these on the Facebook, so apologies if you've seen them already, but these are Spanish.
Nice.
Love them.
Spanish Napoleonics. These are offensive miniatures, so the metals. I just love these figures. They're great fun to do. So trying to do, I've got, I'll probably have a brigade done in a few weeks. For Napoleonic to black powder. Well, I've already got a couple of battalions, and I've got another one to do.
Oh, that's perfect. We're hoping to have some games of soldiers and Napoleon soon as well, and I was going to be speaking to Cal hopefully about doing some. So you'd have a perfect little army for it.
Oh, easy, yeah, easy peasy. And then because that's not enough, I wanted another weird brigade, so I started to work on a Dutch-Belgian one. So I've done a unit of chasseurs for that. So this is. It's the 37th chasseurs, I think, in the Dutch-Belgian army. So I'm about halfway through doing. I'm working through the one of the Belgian, the Warlord resin jobbies that they brought out recently.
Oh yeah,
halfway through working with those, so I took a bit of a break to do these, and I'll get the other ones finished. But I can't work out whether I like or don't that resin. It's not horrible. But it's not great. And
is it better than the other stuff that they had, though?
Definitely better than the original, I would say. Yeah, definitely better than that. But I find it really odd. And I don't know whether it's the figure itself, because they're really, really thin.
Don, what was the cleanup like on them? Was
very little?
Very little.
In fact, I think only where the gaps where they're holding a musket and the crook of the arm, often there's a bit there. And actually, it was dead simple. It's just a scalpel in there, and it cleared out really well. So I can't fault that. They just seem a little weedy. That was the only thing.
When I had that the Judge Dredd starter box, that's resin, and I spent just Dredd by himself. It took an hour to clean up, so it was in a position to be painted, and it was really, really difficult because unlike plastic, you get a knife and go, it's gone.
Yeah.
Same with metal. With this, you've got to be really careful because it's easy to chop into it, and the residual part doesn't come off as easy. It's like it's a bit springy. I mean, hopefully it's when I was at the open day last year and they were doing a demonstration of that Siocast. The figures they showed us and gave us were brilliant. They were really, really sturdy figures, and they came straight out the Siocast machine. No cleanup at all. They were all perfect.
Well, it's funny. I don't recall there being no sort of edgings or anything you needed to work away at all. It was just literally the things like crooks of the arms and that sort of thing, where that was the only place. And of course, they're easy to clean anyway because you just poke a blade in there and wiggle it around. And it's fine. So no, I didn't see any kind of edgings or anything that I needed to work on. So no, I'll let you know. I hope that they'll be done for next week. So I'll show you what they look like. But it's interesting. So yeah, that's all I did. The unit of Spanish and the
they're very nice.
But they're
all very nice.
So thank you. All done. So that's crikey. We took a long time to get through all that. But thank you for all that and all contributions.
We've all been very productive.
We have, haven't we? It's great.
I was quite surprised at how productive I was.
Did loads. I was going to do a little funny on the turnip, but I didn't in the end.
You got me.
He's cracking.
Dom, you got me all confused when you said I've done a weird regiment. I was expecting root vegetables and tufts and all kinds of shenanigans going on.
Not that weird, mate. Not that weird.
Sorely
anyway, let's move on to the topic of the night. So I thought...
I think you should answer that first.
Frigging amazingly big, Nick. Do you know, I did that video it must be about a year ago where I showed around my Napoleonic collection. And I did count it all up. And I meant to keep a running total, but I really ought to go back and do it again because it's got a lot bigger. Huge. It's huge. It's huge. I don't think I could even lay it all out on that table. The Napoleonic collection I've got. yeah, thousands.
So you're actually aiming for like a 1-to-1 scale then?
Do you know, yeah, probably. No, I mean, I just can't resist them every time. I think, oh, another little regiment. Oh, another little regiment.
Are you getting sick of Bavarians? Didn't I see?
It was only the fact that there was in the was it War Games Atlantic have released STLs, and I think, well, can you do something else, something really different?
Something else for me to collect. I want a different...
Exactly. Carl, wash your mouth out. I'm not doing that. Spreadsheets. You confuse me with somebody completely different. See, Colin, that could happen. Actually, Danes could be next. That would be fantastic. Anyway, enough of that. So tonight's topic, I thought. Now, obviously, everyone's got to be really, really careful here, and anybody who's gets very, very excited and hot under the colour needs to go and have a shower about this. But got me thinking. So the news this week or last week, whenever it was, that Warlords have sold 25% stake in the company to who was it? I've forgotten already. The train people. Hornby, that's it. Hornby Airfix. Hornby Airfix. For just over £1 million. Just over £1 million. 25%, which means the company is effectively valued at £5 million, which I thought was peanuts, absolutely peanuts. I was really surprised by it. So that got me thinking. So, Games Workshop, they are the massive animal in the gaming community, and their net value as a company, I looked it up earlier, it's £3.27 billion.
Yes.
So you got 5 million versus 3.2 billion. And it got me thinking, they're doing something right? I mean, love them or hate them, they're doing something right. And I thought, well, is there something that us and the historical community can learn from 40k and Games Workshop and how they do it? Because love them or hate them, and I know a lot of people are the latter, they are incredibly good at doing what they do and getting people interested in the hobby, getting people in, buying their toys, and getting people to spend the money. And I thought there must be something historical to learn from it. So I thought let's just look at it. Let's see what people think, because I know there's a lot of people who do a lot of Games Workshop stuff. I don't, so I'm going to need a bit of help with this. But I'd be really interested to know what people think. So I kind of split it out, and I thought, well, let's start with what do we think the Games Workshop do really well? What do they, what is it they do cleverly that you think, wow, that's a real master stroke of, and I don't mean about making money, because they're obviously good at that, but I mean of getting people interested in the hobby. What do you reckon, Steve?
Steve, you go first.
Yeah, I'll leave you that one.
I think it's because the lore specifically. I mean, I've not really dabbled in the fantasy side or Age of Sigmar, so I can't really give you any on that. But the 40k lore is fantastic. It's brilliant, and even now, I still read the books. I still read the Heresy books. I still read the Black Library books. I love the fluff. I love the background. And when you've got a background like that, it's, how am I going to say this without sounding like a bit of a snob? Not a snob. If you've got galaxy-wide ship-to-ship combat, you've got superhumans fighting against space elves and orcs, and there's these multi-billion planets and warfare and lasers, and you say, well, you can do that, or there's a battle that took place in the 17th century. I mean, that's not going to really, if you're getting just news of the hobby. I know if it was me, if someone had said back to me when I was like 13, do you want to, play with, superhuman space soldiers with big lasers and guns, or do you want to do a battle from, 1584 or something? It just, there's no brainer for me. It wouldn't have interested me at all, because
that's because you didn't like history.
No, I loved history. I loved history, but I didn't want my history on the tabletop. I wanted science fiction. I wanted big lasers, because it wasn't only until I was a bit older that historical gaming sort of really started interesting me.
Right.
But for the most part, it was because I was fascinated by it. I was fascinated by the lore. I used to love White Dwarf. And then I started reading books like Chaos Child and Inquisitor, and all the books from like the early 90s. Even the Dark Future books, they were brilliant. I mean, they're separate to 40k, but there was just this lore and this great wealth, and they were building on it, and it was just, for me, it was just interesting. I found it really, really interesting. And I still do. I'm not ashamed to say I still find the lore fascinating. The models they make are the best on the market. You cannot get.
Can't knock it. No,
better than their plastics. You simply can't. I mean, people have tried, but I don't think. I mean, but they've got the wealth of the money to invest in that. And it's taken.
And they've been around a hell of a long time, haven't they? I mean, that's the other thing. As somebody said earlier, they've been around a lot longer than some.
Oh God, absolutely, yeah. And when you think about it, they started off with metal figures as well. Now they've. I mean, they're 100% exclusively. I think they pretty much everything they do these days is plastic. They don't do any metal. No, I know Forge World do resin, but the actual workshop, all plastics. And for me, it's a bonus. But again, just going back to personally for me, it's the lore. It's just fascinating, and they're not bound by any sort of set period of time. They can do if they want to bring back Reboot Gulliman, they brought him back. If they want to, say the Emperor's waking up, they can say the Emperor's waking up. If they want to say Leman Russ comes back, they can do it. They've got whatever they want, and they'll make figures to that effect. So yeah, fair play to them.
And what do you reckon, Martin, on the lore side of things? Because I mean, there isn't much more lore than history. I mean, Christ, if you wanted to look at your period, Wars of the Roses, the one you love so dearly. I mean, crikey, that's got a heck of a backstory and the different factions, but it doesn't get people's attention.
And because history, a lot of it is written by the winners. It's a matter of opinion, especially when you get facts with dates and but you can't even agree on how many people fought in a bloody battle.
But does that matter for gaming?
Well, I would argue no, but we know that to some people it certainly does. But also to a person who just wants to pick up a box and play, and now that's why some games are quite successful. I guess like Saga and things, But I think the lore really it does help. They've had 40 years of building up an IP. Remember, they didn't start out remaking their own games. They were just a miniature manufacturer. They made D&D models. They made just Citadel miniatures, and they made the Lord of the Rings figures, and then eventually they released their own game for it. So they'd already kind of got a stake in the market, by having people like their miniatures. I just see loads of people like comment in here. I can say it now about the price of GW stuff though, but it's all relative because you need so few models in a GW army compared to a historical army. That's crazy. So, a pack of Victrix, those new Victrix Norman Crossbow, they're £36 for 36 models. And it'd be £36 for like 5 Space Marines, but how many Space Marines have you got in an army? Maybe 20.
Exactly.
One unit. Do you see what I mean? So I don't think that argument really holds any weight, to be honest. Yes, you might consider them overpriced, but you don't need as many to play the game as you do. So
as you do for historical.
But I think what they do well is they do have a ever expanding and dedicated lore to. So if we're going specifically with 40k, it's a living universe. They advance it every now and then. History could learn. Historical companies could do that. I would love to see, let's say Warlord Games, for example, maybe it would do some historical fiction. Like there's nothing. Historical. People love Sharp, the Commando comics. I'd love to see like Warlord Games maybe just produce some graphic novels.
So Phil says that here you can't create history. Well, I think you can, and that's the point you're making. You can because you're not held by the restrictions.
You can place it. I mean, for God's sake, Bernard Cornwell's made a huge career out of it. And I'm going to say now, before anyone comes up, I have watched the Winter King trailer, and I'm
You're sitting firmly on the fence, are you?
No, God, the hell no.
No, you've fallen off it.
I've done a cat. I ripped up the fence, and I'm going to lead a rebellion. I'm ripping up the fence. I'm so. I don't even. It's not even that. It's just that. Sorry, I'm sure we'll come on to this later. But yeah, it's just the fundamental fact that, to me, the story is told from the point of view of Derval Catan. And it's like, where's Derval? Where's Derval? It's like having the Witcher without the Witcher. I don't really quite, and anyway. But no, I think you can. I think that something that people could learn. Because the question is, what could you learn? Not why are they better, and not comparing.
No, exactly.
What could you do?
Think anything's better than the other.
I think they could start branching out and do a couple of other things and get people into that universe. Stories from World War II. Commando Comics did it. Why can't Commando's still going? Isn't it? I think it is.
I think it is,
yeah. Yeah, sure.
I think it is, yeah.
But why not? That's just if Warlord and Commando would be, instead of bloody Hornby, get Commando in and produce some stuff, and then you could even release little units related to that, because that's what GW does. They write stories and things about those characters. I did actually see.
I could never understand that. Sorry, carry on. Sorry,
I was just going to say very quickly. You've got that whole Anglo-Zulu War exhibition that I can't get to in London, and there's a guy who's written a graphic novel about Rorke's Drift, about when they rescued the water cart. He's done a whole graphic novel just about that, and that will actually get some people's attention. I've got a graphic novel about the Battle of Malden, which is has won awards because people think it's great, so they'll go and look at that. Do you see? I think they just something they could learn is. I guess just branching out, just releasing because again, I saw someone in the comments saying, "Oh, GW just rehashed the same old models." How many times can you re-release a French fruit Fusilier?
Yeah,
But even when they release, okay, so with the Prime Dom, this is going to probably sound utter gibberish to you. So brace for impact. When they decided to upscale your standard Marine to the Primaris, they didn't just go, "Here we go. Here's some new Marines. They're bigger." They had a lore to it. They had a background and a narrative for it, and it was a very clever way of doing it. That the people got these nice new Primaris, and there was lore behind it, rather than just say, "Well, here we go." So, like Martin said, when they release units, there's generally a narrative or a lore behind it. But like I say, how many times can you release a French drummer? It's a French grid.
But you see, what I was going to say was, as somebody a bit older than you guys, when I was growing up, we were brought up on a diet of daring do Second World War stories. Comics, the films, the books, everything basically around that. And yet that didn't ever transition. Nobody sort of came along and went, "Oh, we could do that as a." I think the closest, if you look at something like a 0200, where there's sort of in that sort of genre of something that a little bit different, a bit more exciting. But it seems like Games Workshop have done a brilliant job of PRing gaming, and they get people in young.
But up until the 2000s, we were talking about this. That those people who were pioneering that included the Perrys and Jervis Johnson and Rick Priestley. They were all directors of that company, as I know, because I went and had a look.
A bit of a nose, didn't you? Yeah.
But as we can say, I don't think people appreciate, and I'm sure a lot of the chat do, how big GW is in comparison to someone like Warlord. Are probably the biggest historical company.
Give us some of those numbers you got earlier, if you don't mind. They are just
when I was on my break.
Yeah,
I only looked at one set of accounts from GW for last year, which was only the main Games Workshop PLC, which is just that one, because they've got 25 subsidiary companies, which is like Black Library, Citadel, and all of that, and it was 480 million. Just in the UK with and I didn't even look at their operating profit. I just that was the turnover, and obviously turnover doesn't equate to profit, but it shows how many people are interested in buying this stuff. And Warlord Games last year was 15 million. Now obviously they've got Skytrex and a bunch of others, but don't think we're going to. I mean, and that's just one of the GW names. You know, it's so ridiculous. It is such a big thing, which is why I think, you know, especially when, they do make silly decisions at historical stuff that people don't do. The historical community is a lot, I would say, more open. Although I think GW's done things in more recently to mimic the historical stuff by being more active within the community and getting involved with the player base. Yep. Certainly the war, because they had a big push, didn't they, after they changed CEOs, I think, and they pushed the whole Warhammer community into painting videos and and all of that. So you know, I think that's, you know, done a lot for them recently, and I think that's something they learned from other miniature companies, maybe not necessarily historicals, although I'd like to think it was, because the Perrys were obviously quite engaged with their community. But when you're looking at it going the other way, it's I think that the Games Workshop are really, really good, and we know they are at hooking people in. I went in there to buy some paint and walked out with some dinosaurs. All right, like what do you want? You know, I got hooked in my inner child came out, and so, but their miniatures are really, really well made. They are.
Yeah, you can't actually. I've said that all the time. You can't argue with them. The fact that they're, I mean, these ones that I'm painting now, these blubber ones, they're lovely. They're just so, the sculpts, they're crisp, they're nice to paint, they go together mostly easily. But I occasionally go on to the workshop site, and I've got it, like Martin says, you can get sucked in by some of the miniatures because you see some of them.
I do, and I have no idea what they mean. I look at them. Wow.
I just want to paint that. I just look at some of the 40k stuff and think I would love to sit down over a weekend and paint that. Mm-hmm. But I don't, because I don't play the game. So there's no. It would purely be from the perspective of enjoyment. But I can certainly see why people do get really invested in the game, in 40k, in the lore, in the background, because it is easy. It is really, really easy to become ensnared in that, because it is so. It's rich, it's vibrant, it's interesting. It's bloody horrible when you go back down to its core roots.
But the gameplay isn't that great, though, is it? From what I hear, as an actual type of game compared to a historical game.
Well, you say that, but because one of the things I hear quite often is people say how, oh, you know, it's quite straightforward. Have you seen the rule book?
No.
Oh yeah,
it's
it's
ridiculous. But I think, you know, well, that's it though, because they've got lots of different editions, haven't they? I've some historical games that I'm never going to touch again after playing these. They make me scratch my eyes out. Not naming any in particular, but they're constantly evolving it. I mean, yes, that people complain that there's a new edition every 3 years, but you know, they do a new edition every 3 years. I remember a comment on the Facebook feed when we put this up. Someone said something that people could learn is that, you know, they do this thing where they re-release new editions and they incorporate all of those errated rules, whereas like in Warlord and the bolt action isn't the errata like spread across loads of different sort of documents and books. Could they not just do a 2.5 release now and just roll those all into there? So I guess it's the constant support with that. That being said, obviously I've made videos. I don't let the fact that it's historical wargaming and I'm set by a time period limit what I have to do. I do plenty. I think I've only played 3 historical refights on my channel, and I've got, you know, over 50 battle reports on there. So you know, that's
what always makes me laugh, because and people have said it in the comments as well, is it's historically you're limited. I don't believe you are limited. I think you're only limited by your own imagination. But that said, it doesn't have the PR job that that GW does, and it doesn't attract in. Now, is that because historical tends to be? We talked about this loads of times. People tend to move from GW or 40k or fantasy type games into historical when they get a bit older. And is it just an age thing? Is it a grey hair thing, do you think?
I think it's got that perception. But I have got one thought. Sorry, can I say, while it's in my head? GW have a dedicated monthly magazine for all of which covers all their games. So we have War Games Illustrated and War Games Soldiers and Strategy and a couple of others that cover every company. And what they tend to do is do a theme each month. So Napoleonic or medieval or boats or whatever, you know, whereas GW have their own dedicated mag. With Warlords, produced just a month that covers, it has black powder, it has everything in it, has some scenarios, has some battle reports in it. It used to have, GW still has battle reports in writing. You know, which is cool. You know, and they have all the golden demon stuff. You know, this stuff is things that could be done, but I understand that resources aren't. You know what. You know,
well, we've just talked about the money that's involved with GW as opposed to Warlord, but still, you need to invest in the market to grow it, don't you?
Yeah.
I agree with you.
So I think there's things that they could do, people could do. I think, you know, some of the historical companies could do, I think, a much better job at directing their things towards a younger audience. I feel some of the historical companies actually don't want to feel almost like they're not targeting a younger audience. I feel they could. I feel that starter sets are things that companies could do. I'm not talking one-man band companies and small companies. I'm talking the larger ones.
Yeah,
you know, could do more starter sets. Warlord does have good starter sets, like the bolt action armies, and you know, even like, you know, with the new epic range, you know, the epic stuff. But there are other companies as well who are fairly decent sized, that we were talking about earlier, who could do some decent starter armies. But the problem is they don't, and unlike Warlord, they don't all have their own system.
No.
So Warlord are only going to do it. So no, you know, but whereas, for example, though, who is it? First Corps, they have starter armies in there. So they have a starter army for sharp practice. They have a saga starter army, you know, using their models. It'd be nice to see what companies doing a little bit more of that and engage.
So is that part of the problem, do you think, that, you know, you look at historical, not only have you got every period pretty much that ever existed being gamed, there's also 1,001 rule sets for each of those periods, and there's also probably 20 different scales at least for each of those. So you're spreading very thin what is already quite a small thing. Whereas Games Workshop, I mean, I know there's Mantic and some of the other companies out there, but predominantly they're the biggest gorilla in town, and it is just one thing, isn't it? That's it.
They've got two main games, and then they have a little bunch of offshoots. No, you're spot on.
Yeah,
I think as well. It's like, excuse me, if you're gonna sit down and make a new science fiction tabletop game, there's a good chance it's not going to make it because of 40k.
Yeah,
it's like to the video game analogy. If you want to make a sandbox crime simulator, this Grand Theft Auto, you're not going to go up against that because it's phenomenally big. And you know, it's very rare these days you actually see a whole new dedicated science fiction tabletop game being released. Because
we'll talk about this in the news section.
You've got to go up against the big gorilla.
Steve's right. It has to be completely different. Now, the biggest contenders against 40k would have been War Machine, which was a brilliant setting. They took the steampunk thing, which GW hadn't really touched. There were some steampunk elements, but they went with it. But then they managed to in my opinion, completely bugger that up. And then there's Infinity that went down the whole manga, very, very small special ops kind of near future instead of a grim dark future. And those are probably the most successful sci-fi properties going next to GW, but they're also very, very small compared to people, because compared to the GW, obviously rather GW 40k. But I think people just like the 40k lore as well, which has clearly got historical influences in it. But for what you could learn from it, it's hard. I mean, because there's so many different directions you could go in and little things you could do, isn't there?
So let's flip it on its head then. So in terms of historical, you guys dabble in both sides, but predominantly historical more nowadays. What is it that historical could do that would allow it to sort of attract some of those young people in who are really into 40k, or would attract people away from, or look at doing both 40k and historical? What's the sort of thing that you think would be great, Steve? Because bolt action is a classic example that's used sort of almost like a mini 40k. It's sort of multiple editions of rules. So there's lots of lore because there's the different books with the different army lists in it and everything else. But it's not really there, is it?
No, I mean, I've had loads, especially ever since I did that bolt action basic series on my channel. 2-3 years ago. There's been a lot of the comments on there are, they find it helpful because they've come from 40k and they like the short form videos where they can just, it picks up the basic mechanics of the rules. And the amount of people I used to play 40k, I came from 40k. Where me and my friends have decided to try something different. Now, I think that's the exception rather than the rule. I think that doesn't happen anywhere near as much as people think. I think a lot of the people, with 40k, it's a time investment. It's a monetary investment as well. If you're going to get into that, you've got to put some money in there. Now, people are going to walk away from that just to on the chance that they might like this new game, or they watch an episode of Sharp and think, no, I like the look of that. I'll go and look into that, or watch a historical film or something. I just don't think it's. I don't know. For me, it's a lot of them. A lot of people are entrenched in that in the 40k, and even. I can't speak much of it. Age of Sigmar and Fantasy Battle, because it wasn't really my thing in the past. But 40k was, and I guess I still read the books. I even there's a channel, Oculus Imperia, and he does absolutely fantastic lore videos, and some are on for 2 hours, and it's just him talking about the 40k lore and different chapters, different wars. It's for painting, it's great, and it plugs gaps for me, because I like to know I've got a basic knowledge of 40k lore, but it's for me it's an entirely different thing to sitting down and reading a history book. And I can't say why, because it's the same thing you're hearing about a history. One's real and one is very, 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 very unreal.
Personally, I only watch Midwinter Minis, but I hear what you're saying. Matt's got a point here, and I think this is an interesting one. He says he thinks there's a myth that historical and GW gamers are two separate communities who never meet. I play both, and so do many people at my club. What do you? I can't say that happens much at our club because it is predominantly I think 99% historical. That said, somebody was playing Blood Bowl last week.
Yay!
Which was kind of like, but it's unusual. But what do you reckon? Is that part, if that's the case, if people are going to a club, and I think clubs are one of the strengths of historical gaming. I think that's one of the things that really brings people together and gets people excited. Good club, But if they're coming in, or people are coming in playing 40k down one end of the room and there's historical down the other, and they never actually mix, is that because historical just isn't attractive enough as a game? Is it just not exciting enough? Is it not welcoming enough? What do you think?
Well, I think it's just down to engagement, personally. If you could, it depends on who's presenting the game. I'm not meaning to talk about my channel, but I did those Black Powder games because I wanted to show that Black Powder could be played on a smaller table in your house with some scenery at home. Admittedly, the original plan wasn't to use my wife, but we're in lockdown, so what was I going to do? But the whole point was to show, because everyone, I saw all these channels going, I want to play on a big table, or I'm playing down the club, and I'm building a battle for our big Leipzig game. Okay, that's great, but that doesn't mean you can't have some games in the meantime and have some fun and have a laugh with it and have the banter that we all have. And unfortunately, and it was proved on the video, which you lampooned, which I'm not going to name, that the people did just come and say that they find the community dull. That's their preconception, but it's also the way that we that some of these places do come across. So if someone does turn up to a club, and I've done it where I turned up to a club in Cambridge, because there were two, I won't name which one it was, one was good, one was bad. I turned up and I never went back. It was dire. It was just dire. And I was playing historicals. I was just like, this is just not good. But then that could be the same in any kind of community.
Yeah.
But Matt is right. I play fantasy and sci-fi as well as I'm going to be playing, Rangers of Shadow Deep. I haven't got any GW games on the go, I don't think, particularly. I do keep looking at them because I do like all the pretty models, and then I go and click on something else. But I would say most of the people I know 80%, I'd say, play both. There's only probably you, Dom, and I can't actually think of it. There's a couple. Oh no, there's a couple of us here who don't play 40k or have never played it. So, that's.
Benjamin says when you do presentation games and have both 40k and historicals, you often see the children go and watch the 40k tables while the parents go to the historical. Parents already have hobbies.
That was my experience at the first games club I went to. Actually, it would have been 91, 92, playing predominantly workshop games. So it was 40k Rogue Trader 40k, and then we were playing Blood Bowl, Man of War, things like that. And the historical gamers, it felt like we were tolerated. It wasn't.
Don says it really well.
No, again, I think I mean, I was very young at the time, but the impression that I used to get was they were sort of looking down on us and say, "What's this? Let me get back to my 12-foot wide chart." Whereas we're there laughing and joking because somebody in a game of Blood Bowl has just been killed by the opposition.
So that's a good point, because that was definitely the case with historicals, and I'm not going to say it isn't entirely still happening in some quarters, but historical has changed a lot. It's a lot more fast paced. The games are much more abstract. There's not as much table consultation. It's more fun.
They're more exciting.
More exciting games. So, that kind of, is it perception thing? Do you think that people are just thinking, well, shit, they're going to be really boring old men that just stand around the table and not welcoming or not? Because, I mean, Graham says here, he says down at Reading, there's 60 plus people there. Last week, there was 8 playing 40k. So clearly there's a huge opportunity. I know Farnborough, same, probably not that sort of number, but about 30 odd people generally all playing historical. So there's a huge audience there.
I know there is that perception. I could get, again, going back to the club I used to go to, I always got the impression that they weren't having fun. It didn't look fun. Everyone looked serious. No one smiled, no one joked, no one laughed.
Exactly. I'm not going to name any names because I know people are watching. But we were chatting about one of our friends who basically said he was never going back to a club because he had such a crap time with the people there. So, a lot of it does, I guess, does come down to it. But then GW has a brick and mortar store that you can go into. They've got sales training, and they want to get you in. They're going to make it exciting and vibrant. So maybe
there's hardly a high street certainly in the UK that doesn't have a GW store, which helps a lot. Right?
Oh, it helps hugely that you can just wander in. Not all of them are main stores. A lot of them are these little satellite stores, like the one here in Bury. There's one guy in there, and they don't hold a complete range, and they don't really have any games going on. I think I've just got it, or I've got in there when there aren't any. But yes, but then is that a thing? Obviously, the high street has been so affected that we have lost a lot of just friendly local game stores that could put on other games and things. I think there's a big one in Colchester who does all sorts. But I think
I agree. Well, listen, there's been some amazing stuff coming through the chat, and I'm trying to keep up with it. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Thank you for everybody who's put it together. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk some more in a minute. But shall we do a little bit of news and for a little breather?
Yeah, you've got 37 starred comments to go through.
I know. I just, thanks guys. It's great. I mean, that's what I wanted. At the end of the day, I wanted to get people's views on this because I was genuinely interested. Because as I say, I looked at those numbers and I thought, like Martin was saying, I just cannot believe the scale difference is just extraordinary. I knew it was big, but I didn't know it was that big.
But I think you've worded it very well, and I think that's obviously what we get in at here is you said what can historicals learn from 40k, not why are they better or worse, because
neither's better or worse.
I still prefer historicals. That's the thing. I hugely prefer it, but there's always something to learn from success. There is absolutely.
All right, let's do some news and then we'll continue this discussion because I don't think we get any answers, but it's fascinating to hear what people think. So, and there are a lot of people who do both, so which also is great to hear. So let me close your ears. We got the music coming.
So sinister.
So sinister, isn't it? Go on, Martin. I saw you got loads of stuff here on the.
I'm not going to make the joke I was going to make about that music, actually, because it's on your channel. If it was on Ken's, I would have made it. So what have we got? So I've seen a few things. So I talked about them earlier. Victrix have released their Norman crossbowmen. You get 36 of these lovely looking miniatures in there. Now I think we did talk about these last week, but I couldn't remember if it was just on a preview. But anyway, here they are. They're up again. It's £36 for 36 of them. £1 a mini.
Is that price creep?
Yeah,
because they never used to be £1 a figure, did they? Plastics?
No, they've been 36. It's been 32 to 36 for a little while now for them. But I imagine they're going to break them down into these slightly smaller skirmish packs that you get. I don't know why you'd need 36 crossbowmen. Certainly, if you're playing Saga, you might want to split these. Yeah, they're out now. Anyway, speaking about GW. You need to get on it, mate. You just have to get on it and do it. I thought this one might again, this shows the point I was trying to make. Steve, I thought you might be interested in this. There is a new core rulebook coming for Necromunda. Look at the size of that book.
That is
now
a
this
tome.
Now one of the big things that people have said about Necromunda is that there were so many supplements for it that there were rules spread over 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, loads of books plus a new supplement. This takes them all and just puts them into one volume.
Yeah, right.
All of it. So if you were going to get into Necromunda, or you were thinking about getting into it, or you just want everything in one place, then this is coming out. So I thought that might interest you. So yeah, but this is my thing. This is my thing. My point. You could. They're updating it. Okay, but it does cost money to do that. But anyway, yes, there's a new Necromunda rulebook on the way. Now, obviously, after that, we have Firefight by Mantic. So their sci-fi release, which has been getting quite a lot of press in various news groups and just across the internet. And there's lots of preview sets been sent out. So this is Mantic's part of their universe. Now, Firefight is that actually the name of essentially their futuristic Kings of War? Or was there actually another one, and this is a version of it? Essentially, it's their version of 40k.
Yes.
Using their property. And they've released 2 starter sets to go with this. So you can get this starter set, which is the space rats against the space dwarves, although they have their proper names. But I quite like those rat things at the top. I like the tunnel. It reminds me of Thunderbirds.
I just imagine
true, actually. Yeah.
It just reminds me of Total Recall.
Yeah. I can't give you a price point for
lovely.
these, but if anyone in the chat, I'm sure they might know. This sounds like the kind of thing that James Cuts. Shakos would know. I feel like this is the kind of thing he would know straight away. So you get your rule book with that, but then also they've got another one here, which is I think this is essentially the humans versus the space orcs. I would say out the 2, I prefer the look of this one. What the fuck has happened to Dom? Has he got a mini fridge out there?
He looks like he's got a
Dom,
mini
have you
fridge.
got a mini fridge? Have you got a mini fridge?
Yeah, of course I have, mate.
Did it all just fall out?
Yeah. No, one fell out. It's fine.
So I was just saying, they've got their 2 starter sets. This is a good example. So they've released 2 sets with 2 completely different armies in them. But out the 2, I must say I prefer this one.
Yeah, I prefer that one.
Because of the things.
I've no idea what it is, but I love
rats with guns. You can't go wrong with rats with guns.
I like those wheelie things in the top. They look like those things that you had a nightmare putting together, Martin.
Thank you for raising that particular nightmare. I was wondering what I would not fall asleep on. I saw AB have released some some Napoleonic Dutch in their 18mm stuff. So I just got a couple. So look, there's lovely little figures.
Really nice.
Not little, but little enough. But yeah, they're Firefighting Dead Zone. Thank you, dude. Here you go. I knew he'd come through for us. So those starter sets are £95 each. That is
That is
brilliant value. That is really good value. 95 for that, which is the rule book and 2 armies. That's really good value. Really, really good value. And then here's some Dutch Grenadiers. Look at them.
Oh, they're nice.
Look at the detail on them. I couldn't find a drummer. I was going to put that on.
AB do some amazing figures, don't they? Really good.
They really do. Some really nice stuff. Macross Reconquered Designs has released a preview of this month's stuff, which is some 12th century knights, and these are Knights of Castile. As you can see, he hasn't quite finished all the armor because there's 2 naked dudes at the back. But these are his new horses because he said he was unhappy. For some reason,
the horses were great, and he said he didn't like them. It's like,
he said that there were a few things that he noticed that were anatomically incorrect. So here they are with some couch lances, but these are basically going to form the base. He's going to do knightly orders charging as well. So those ones that I've got that are sort of standing, with the ones I sent you, Dom, with the knight, he's going to do them charging.
Oh God, he would, wouldn't he?
So he's done that, but he's also he's very nicely done a flag with the symbol of Castile actually embossed on it for you to paint. But he's going to do them for Aragon. No, that's the guy from Lord of the Rings, Aragon, and Castile, and then I've forgotten. Is it Navarre? Is that the other?
It is
Spanish?
Navarre, yeah.
So he's going to do. I think you get the same sub bodies, but the shields and the flag are you can change. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then Wargames Illustrated are working with the Perrys and Jervis already to do their 2nd edition of Valor and Fortitude, which is still just going to be 4 pages of rules, but they're now expanding the rule book to, I think it's 16 or 20 pages, to taking a whole load of army lists and things as well. So this is going to be available for free with Wargames Illustrated, I think, in a couple of issues' time. So they're already...
Has anybody played it yet?
I keep looking at it.
I do too, and I really would like to. In the chat, if anyone's played it, can just let us know whether it's any good.
Solo it, Dom. Do a solo for us.
I was thinking, but I've got to read the rules, Martin. You know I'm not.
There's 4 pages.
I know, but that's a lot of work. Oh, well, I can make it all up. It's fine. That's what I know.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I have. That's what I have at the moment. So it's good variety. Yes, it's the October
edition. Okay, cool. Oh, that's brilliant. I must admit, I do want to have a go at those rules, but I did say to Jonathan last week at the club, I said, let's just agree we're going to focus on 2 or 3 rule sets and just do them. And because we tried to play O Group, we spent so long going back through the O Group rules that we only played about 4 turns. And it's a great rule system, and it's not that difficult. But if you don't play it for like 3 months, you forget, and especially when you're
right. Old. Absolutely, this is. I think you should. I think James is. I can see him doing that.
I'm ignoring that.
It's only 1 step from a badger with a rolling pin to a rat with a gun.
What scale are they?
They're 28.
Oh, I'll do them. Yeah, go on then. I'll do them. Easy. Right. So what did I see?
Can I have a drink with me? I just need to
just have a calm down after that moment. Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, I'm not going to use them for anything, but what the hell? So Ian flags the war. Ian's got a whole load of new War of Austrian Successor figures coming through. So these are the French Grenadiers. I mean, they're just lovely. I would never do these because all the lace and the frills just scares the bejesus out of me. They just look lovely, though.
And they're French.
Well, there's that as well. Yeah,
that's surely that's the biggest reason you wouldn't do.
Yeah,
but they are lovely, aren't they? I do love his medals. They are lovely,
beautiful stuff. Hopefully, there's going to be some more of his Border Reavers stuff coming through soon because that is awesome, and I must play that again. Having said I'm only going to do 1 or 2 game systems, I'm suddenly thought, I want to play that. Oh, bugger, back again. And then get ready to drink because there's 3 lots of 3D print stuff that I've seen.
Oh, God, right.
Good thing I've just refilled.
All right, here we go.
Skull. Everyone keeps commenting about this. This is a drinking horn.
Oh, it's glass. I didn't see it.
It is glass. Estelle bought it for me for Father's Day last year, I think.
That's lovely. I'd rather have that one. Ken very nicely got me that. He got me an actual one, didn't he, for being his best man? The only problem with him is that slowly they start to sort of rot.
I know, and I had one of those, but the glass one is great.
It's lovely.
There you go. I don't know where she got it from. Probably our garden centre, because that's where she buys everything. So Norse ship. Anybody? 28 mil Norse ship available through the War Games Atlantic STL stuff. I think that's quite cool. That could be you could see that in all kinds of raid games and all sorts.
Could you see that the midsection is separate? Could you then print off like 3 of them and make it massive?
Make it extra big? Yeah, I presume so. I don't know where the mask would go, but
you have to complicate everything.
You could drill a new hole for the mask, couldn't you?
Why? I don't know. Yeah, fill it with a barrel. There you go, Robin. If you're in the chat, there you go. There's our next saga scenario. Escape on the boat.
And if you need some picks to be involved in it, they've got some picks as well just come through. So they are obviously Roman period picks as opposed to later ones, but that's still cool. I do love the square shields of the picks. Really interesting. And then even further back, they've got a range of Trojan infantry.
Hang on, Trojan. Yeah, Trojans.
Yes.
Not Trajan.
Not Trajan. These are Trojans, which look really cool as well. That's a period I've never ever played. Of all the periods, I've never played that period. But anyway, so lots of 3D prints coming through from them. So I think that's all. You picked up the other stuff I saw. So there you go. That's what we've seen so far. Lots of good stuff. Sorry, carry on.
PCP glass drink. We could certainly do mugs. I did wonder if we could do mugs with painting recipes on the side of them, like different highlight like triad colors and things like that on the side.
There's a thought, isn't there?
Yeah. Or don't dip your brush. A warning would be really, really helpful. No dipping.
Yeah, get ready for 3D is what it should say. Right. There we go. So some real cool stuff. It's funny, it hasn't really slowed. Oh, God. Someone had to go there.
Yeah.
Someone had to go there. That's a funny little laugh you gave there. Right, let's get back to the topic of the day. So, reminder, if you haven't already done so, and anybody watching on catch up, thanks very much for that. Hit that like, hit that subscribe to all the channels. All the links are in the description down below, and also to the Facebook page. And we'll get onto that.
And that was the thing I meant to say about boards and swords with the 5% discount. You might want to have, if any of you are interested in those Mantic starters. I'm sure if you get in touch with Ian, he will be able to get hold of them. So that's 95 quid is retail. I don't know what he'd be able to do. I don't even know if he would definitely be able to get them, but you could knock 5% off of that, which is nice. You bring that down to 90, or it's essentially paying for the postage. But also with that Necromunda rulebook on the horizon, and he does knock I think it's 10% off GW stuff already. I think he's 10% lower, so you get 15 off with us now, but don't quote me on that, but I think that's roughly what he does. So
how many rats could I get for that? God. Awesome. Right then, let's have a look at some of the comments because there were loads of them, and I got up to 40 starred comments, so I don't think I'm going to match all of these. Apologies for
all right. You got 35 minutes.
Got 35 minutes, and we got viewers' pictures to do. Yeah. Right. Well, let's start with one actually not related to GW. Phil Martin wants to know. Evening, Martin. What's your advice on a house move with your hobby stuff? You've just done it. What did you do?
I remember that the hobby takes precedence over everything else. Don't be put off by what other people say. No, my advice is to get some of the big, really useful boxes for terrain. But for things like terrain, rule books, go to Tesco's or any of your big supermarkets and go to the fruit and veg bit and ask them for banana boxes, which are the big clamshell boxes. We got over 120, so didn't have to buy any boxes. And I keep a whole load of my stuff in it still. So that would be incredibly useful. I would just clearly label everything, because I've had a little bit of a nightmare trying to find certain scenery. It was really annoying me in our saga game with Robin, because I couldn't find where my big rocks were to scatter, and I actually had to go on a mission the next day into the shed to go and find them. Just remember to put your seatbelt around any boxes with miniatures in, so if you break too hard, they will go. And also make sure you got plenty of super glue, because it will break. They will break. They will break. They will. They will.
Awesome. Right. So let's see. Flimsy Wargamer says comparing GW and historical businesses isn't as easy, I think, as GW have the IP to make the books, video games, etc. I think that's true. There's definitely, obviously, that is true. And we were talking about this. They control the product completely, and there isn't so much available as there is with historical. However, I do think you could do it in other ways with historical.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not a comparison. You're saying what can historical businesses, what out of all of those things, the things that work, what could they take? Because there'll be some things that do work, obviously. But there's nothing to say that. But that's it. Obviously, they have gaming development, but they have developed that brand. That is their IP. They have writers. They employ people whose sole job it is to write those books and fiction stuff around it. Maybe Warlord could employ people to start doing some fiction, historical fiction produced by Warlord. I'm just ideas.
Yep. I agree.
And I've done it. If you are interested, I've done it in the past. So, always remember that.
Yes, I found my flames. I've got my book with you in it. I've got it.
Oh, God, he's touting for business again.
I've got it up there. I've got my original Ski Ross. I'm going to get you to sign
but
it.
You're the big Warlord man, aren't you? I saw you were in a picture at Warlord Open Day. You were center.
That picture's been used so many times. I might start charging royalties. I've just randomly taken my mate Ian and bumped into Phil in the tent. It was a good day.
Awesome. I just find it really ironic that so many people who are so formative of GW were actually diehard historicals and then moved on to do historicals. It's just sort of ironic, isn't it? Andy says GW make it easy to be into Warhammer. They do, don't they? And I think we talked about this earlier. It's that sort of almost acceptability to, space stuff, base weird shit and guns and, space lasers and all that kind of stuff, which doesn't seem to be the case historical.
I don't quite, this is just me. I don't quite get the statement. I don't quite. What do you mean? It's more accepted. It's more socially acceptable to be in.
Yeah. I don't think it's just socially acceptable. I think it's just, it's an easy thing for people to grasp. It's just like,
okay, right, okay.
That's why that's how I read it anyway.
Yeah,
and they're a very busy company as well, so they're always working on multiple things as well. Which
there's releases all the time.
Yeah. Do you think as well? Do you think they've really and coming from where they came from, sort of 10, 15 years ago? They've really grasped social media, haven't they?
Yes, especially in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I would say, because 10, 15 years ago, remember there was no comments on videos. There was very, very little in the way of it. Was like, here's our product, buy our product, play our product, and that was it. There was no real engagement with the community. But now, very, very active across every social media.
And that's particularly useful in the social media world. In the youth audience, isn't it? Younger people, particularly, to get into it. So that's an easy win for a historical company like Warlords to do, surely, to get that sorted. Yeah. Yet they don't seem to do it very well. They had a phase of it. I know they used to have a social media manager, and she left. Weird.
I just think. Any company. I follow quite a few sort of smaller companies on Twitter. They're very active, and people find it, especially Twitter as well, because it's quite quick to use, and you can reach a lot of people.
Yeah,
and I think embracing that, I think it's vital to getting your product out there, getting your wares out there, getting your new products. Look, we're releasing this, and so it has become very, very, very important.
Yeah, Benjamin says GW are great at creating stuff for the entry level. Their average customer is a 35 to 40-year-old woman, so mothers buying entry stuff as present for their children. If that's what you say in terms of numbers, but I know if you go on the rare occasion I do go into a GW store, it is noticeable. There are, especially around Christmas time, or particularly around Christmas time, you'll see grandparents clearly going in with some sort of list and saying, I need something for my grandchildren. And they make it very easy to buy a box that somebody could give as a present. Uh-huh. I know personal experience, whenever I put my list together of my historical stuff that I want, Imogen's told me before, my youngest daughter, she said, I don't like buying the stuff from there because they charge so much postage for the little tiny thing, get a little pack of figures from Perry, and they'll charge you £5 postage on it. And she says, it's just, I feel bad, but I don't want to do that. And it's true. And I can understand why that is. So it's easy to go and buy something cheap for somebody to buy somebody as a present, which is, I just don't think there is. That said, I think, Warlords do some of the plastic sets they do are pretty cheap, pretty reasonable as an entry level. What are we talking about here? Here we go. Andy says it's much more difficult to get into historical. It takes more effort and the barrier to entry is higher. I don't necessarily agree anymore, Andy. I think certainly if you want to do mass battle historicals, that's true. Absolutely true. But there's so many good skirmish games out there. I can't remember whose channel I was watching. There was a channel who's just starting out in sharp practice, for instance. And he was making the point with 2 boxes of Warlord figures, he'd managed to build everything he was ever going to need for a French bolt action, French sharp practice army. And it's, what's that? Less than £60, really. That's not bad, really, and it's really easy to do. So I don't know. I think the cost to entry is not that. I think it's more the fact you haven't got. It's harder to find inspiration and people to play with is probably more the issue.
Yeah, but this is the thing. People keep bringing up the cost, but GW are making people are willing to pay it. Because they want that IP. Okay, they haven't necessarily been exposed to historical gaming, but there are plenty of historical companies who they charge equivalent prices for their products, which again you can't really use that, especially if we get into metals.
Yeah. Don't you dish metals. Robin says the main difference for me is GW is its own bubble. From rules to paint to glue, it's all in one place.
Yeah.
We did talk about it being its own hobby.
Yeah, it is true. What about this from Daniel? The armies each have their own flavour. The way of play. Hang on. Way of play. The way of play doesn't seem to show up in historicals.
So I would say on the surface, yes, it's much easier to go orc smash. These people shoot. There are newer systems. Saga, they all play completely differently. All of the armies, but I don't know if necessarily it looks like that on the surface. So yes, outwardly it's quite easy to identify. I suppose if you walked into a Games Workshop and you've never heard of anything before, you'd be easily be able to identify who likes hand-to-hand combat and who likes shooting, just by looking at the stuff. So I guess you could say things are clearly defined, but then that's part of the historical side of things, isn't it? It's not as clear cut as that.
It's difficult, isn't it? I mean, there's no hard and fast rules on this. I would not necessarily.
Do you think then? Do you think people, when you compare the likes of 40k to historicals, do you think people are looking for different things from each rule set, or from each side?
So I think the problem inverted commas with historical is you've got a lot of people coming at it from, I want something that's going to be historically accurate and something that I can imagine. I've read books about this period and I want to fight this way. And then you got people come from the other spectrum who just want to have a damn good fun game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, the biggest difference is that obviously from a fantasy setting, you're only going to have people who just want to have a damn good game because you haven't got anything to compare it with, right? There's no preconception.
No, it's true. And plus as well, I mean, with 40k, it's set in one time period, one time frame. But I mean, apart obviously from 30k, obviously. But if you're just choosing 40k, any army can fight any army, and you can think of a narrative as to why these two armies are fighting.
Yeah.
Which goes a long way if you're both collecting Space Marines, or if you're both collecting or what they call it, is it Eldari they're called these days? Eldar?
Yes.
Eldari. Yes. God, yeah, I'm so. It's just it confuses the hell out of me trying to think of.
You're showing your age, mate. You don't know what's going on.
The other day I was going through the Age of Sigmar factions. I didn't know that lizard men are called Seraphon these days.
Yes, because that's copyrightable.
I was like, oh, have they been like squatted? Where are they? Because they were going through the list. I was like, oh, lizard men, they're gone. And then I saw a thing that Goblin had posted. It was a big box of the Seraphon. I was like, oh. They've got a different name. Brilliant. Cool. That's nice.
So I think Andy's clarifying. It says not the cost, it's the need to buy rules from one online store and then 2 boxes of figures from another, and then where to paint them, basing them, blah 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 blah. And that's true. You go, as we say, go to GW. It's all there. It's all there. You don't need to worry about anything else. But yeah. I don't know. Let's see what else we got. Oh my goodness, so many questions. Lots of questions about social media stuff. People making good points about War Games Atlantic are making good use of social media. I think they are too. Really good job.
Their Facebook group, there's so much engagement with their community. It's always good to see, and they always do sneak previews of upcoming things. They're always asking the community, what would you like to see next? Remember that thing about the Landsneck ogres?
Yeah,
I thought that was a joke, and now that's an actual thing, and they look brilliant. They look fantastic, and I really want to own some of them because they just look. Who just want to paint Landsneck ogres?
Aren't they having a bit of a spat with Victrix at the minute?
Oh yeah, they are.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, big style. But even that's good sort of social, right? That kind of thing will get attention for them. So, Steve says if GW gets Cavill TV series right, it pushed them into the next level and attract more into the hobby, which historically could benefit.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did say last week we were talking about Napoleon, the film. Even though again, it's going to have some probably glaring historical inaccuracy.
I don't care. I'm going to watch
exactly. No, but exactly, it will get people excited about it. So someone will say, "I want to play Austerlitz, and I want everyone to fall into a lake." And then what will happen is someone will go, "It was actually a fish pond," and then someone will go, "Well, I'm not going to play it then."
I'll be honest. Some of the things I've seen over the past week about the tagline. He came from nothing and conquered everything. So, some of the funny things have been out there on.
He came from this and conquered and briefly conquered 2% of the world's population.
Yeah. All right. So let's. We're coming towards the end, and I want to have time to do some viewers' pictures because this has been awesome stuff as always. So let's turn it on its head. So, what is it the historical does really well that doesn't necessarily kind of come out well enough that you think would attract people into the hobby from the fantasy side, from the Games Workshop side?
I know we mentioned it before, but it's that perception that historicals is for crusty, dull old men. And I think. I mean, that was my experience 30 years ago. And there's so much more younger people into historicals these days than people give people credit for. But I still think there is a slight snob element. I mean, you guys have talked about how Napoleonics and how awful they can be. And Martin had that incident in the World War II group. With the tanker uniform.
Oh God! Yeah.
So I do think that there's still that element of I don't know, some people just hold a nose when it comes to like fantasy or sci-fi. It's just not the done thing. Which I don't. I mean, I think it has been largely dispelled.
Yeah, I mean, it is present in like the 40k and and GW. It's just that when it's fantasy, you can go, well, fuck you.
It's fantasy.
I mean, it's fantasy. It's a lot easier to do that than in other ones. So yes, there's that.
What, you told me that I've painted my 7-foot-high super soldier the wrong color? What? It's just ridiculous.
I think Flimsy's got something here. Is that the historical hobby is small businesses with lots of personal character. I think that's very true. You just have to go to one of the conventions or one of the shows and just talk to some of the guys that are just truly passionate about what they do. Absolutely love what they're doing. They're not making huge amounts of money out of it generally.
Well, we know they're not because we looked at
their accounts. We've looked at some of their accounts, but yeah. But they do.
I mean, there we go. There's the rub. GW in it. They're making money. That's what they do. They're good at what they do, but they make.
They got
money.
shareholders, so they have to. So
they have to. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I like this one from Red 7. Flexibility. If you have a collection, different rule sets open up a whole different range of gaming experience that differ widely. That's true. You can play, if you've got a Napoleonic army, you can play skirmish games, you can play mass battle games, you can play different versions of mass battles, you can play battalion size games, you can play. You can put a tuft on its back of a head and play fucking turnip. You can do all sorts of shit with it. I think that's very true.
But I think it's also a weakness. And we talked about this before, is with the G. If you said, I just want to play 40k, which edition? Well, you'd assume the most recent, is what people want to play unless they want to do something else. Whereas if we had it, let's play, do you want to play some Napoleonic? Or do you fancy sharp practice? Or, okay, I'm not as familiar with that. What do you want to play next week? Let's do Black Powder. How many times are you actually playing the same rule set? Whereas, I guess the average GW player, and I'm very sorry if I'm generalizing here, if someone who's only playing GW games, they're going to play a lot of the same game. One game, and they'll play it a lot, and they'll play it religiously, and they'll get a lot of use out of it. Whereas I like having variety, but this is also we talked about this the other week. Is also what's put me off getting into other systems. So I sit there and go, am I actually gonna game it? Am I actually gonna get around to doing it when I find it hard enough to have a game at the minute with all of the varieties of the game? If I only collected 40k in Age of Sigmar, probably be so much easier to just go because they're the two games I've got. I love variety, but
yeah. Well, you're buggy because you're just recounting back what I was saying to you before the stream that we talked about. Me and John have talked about trying to cut down on the rule set, so we just play 4 or 5 rules and only those to try and make sure we don't have to go through the business about remembering all the rules.
Yeah,
I like the variety myself, but
yeah, me too.
I get what you're saying,
but also it's the history thing, isn't it? Because if you want to play with Normans need different sets of rules to how you use the Wars of the Roses because they fight completely differently. All the 40k armies are designed to fight each other. So if you go, I want to start a new army, we go, I want to start a new time period, really, unless your Dom is thousands of Napoleonics because he refuses to do French.
I've got French. I need someone for the 95th to kill.
but yeah, what I mean is it's just one system, isn't it? Still.
Absolutely. No, I think that's true. Craig says historicals by their very nature guides people to explore history and to broaden the depth of their understanding about the times, the issues. The research becomes almost half the fun. I think that's a huge strength to historicals. I really do. That said, I know a lot of people who will just play because they like the color of a uniform, or they know nothing about the period, and that's fine as well, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But personally, I love reading about it.
Yep,
brilliant. Brilliant stuff. And David agrees. Definitely, Craig. Some of the things that occurred in real campaigns in history are equally as mad, if not more so, than many of the scenarios offered up in the sci-fi and fantasy gaming world. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's. Oh, crikey. We're conscious of the time. I want to leave plenty of time to go back to show lots of pictures. So, here you go. Don says, with historicals, you can find exactly the type of rules that you'd like to play because there's millions of rule sets out there. GW forces you into the few choices. Yeah, well, that's what Martin was just saying. That's a good thing and a bad thing, right?
Yeah, but then you got to find someone to play against.
Yeah,
who likes the same rule set. Which I'm very lucky. I've got people nearby that I can coerce into playing the games I want to play. But yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, isn't it? You know, GW forces you to play this way, but you know that all the GW players are going to be playing that way, so you've got a game.
And that's, you know, there was a guy who came down the club last week before last to Farnborough, and he was, you know, I don't think he played that much stuff. He was just starting out. He'd got a couple of bolt action figures and was sort of looking to paint some more up. And he came in and was sort of almost like, oh my goodness, there is just so many games going here. And I could see his eyes sort of going almost scared. It's like, oh, crikey, we got all these different options around the tables, and nobody's playing bolt action, by the way. They're all playing other things. And sort of, you know, it's like, we all said, well, you know, when you come in next, we'll play your bolt action for you. That's fine. But it's quite intimidating, I think, if you're new to the hobby.
Yes.
That sheer variety is very intimidating. I think it's a strength, but I think it's also scares people. As Joseph said, historical gives you over 1,000 years to pick from. Yep. True, and also not so good. And for this segment, I'm going to leave it with the wise words of Matt. It said, when we're talking about what can historical bring to the hobby, we can drink GW under the table. That's very, very true.
That is true.
Very true. Anyway, right, I'm conscious we're coming towards the latter half of the stream. Thank you to everybody again who's watching, and thanks for all the participation. It's been fun, actually. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Really interesting to get people's views on this. And as I say, I think everyone's taken it in good heart, because it wasn't not having a dig at GW at all, because I think they do some amazing stuff, but it's more, what can historical learn from it? Because I love historicals and I don't want it to die. So let's take a look at some of the viewers' pictures. So reminder, these are some of the stuff that people have posted on the Facebook page. If you're not a member of the Facebook page, why not? Click on it. There's a link down below. Just go on there. There's 3 really simple questions which are just there to stop spammers, despite these 2 letting anybody in who...
I rejected some.
I don't let everybody in.
I rejected one person. People have been really good recently. What do we do if someone only answers like 2 of the questions, but the answers are really good?
There's a tiebreaker. Do you like turn at 28? Let them in.
And if they say yes, we kick them out. That's the way it goes. Yeah. No, I think it's more around, if they get recommended, then that's fine as well. So anyway, let's have a look at some pictures. So Carl, this is his 15 mil command set. Look at that. That is awesome. I don't know what Napoleon looks like. He's about to drop off entirely. He's having a right old snooze there. I love it. Brilliant. 15 mil. Wow. I know this got you excited, Steve. This was Andy's epic Swedes.
Yes.
He's going to use Pikeman's Lament, isn't he?
Andy, sorry, mate, but I'm stealing this idea 100%. In fact, I even sent a picture. I sent that exact picture to my mate before and said, look, this is what we're doing. It's Pikeman's Lament in 15 mil or 13 and a half, because he's doing Swedes. And yeah, he was massively impressed with it. It just looks great. It looks really, really nice.
Yeah. I think it's a clever idea. I don't like Pikeman's Lament, if I'm honest, but I think that's a really clever idea. It just shows you can use teeny figures like that to play something like Pikeman's. I think that's really cool. Really cool. I love this.
Yes.
This is Craig's French Napoleonic.
They're his first as well, aren't they?
I think he said it. No, I think there was somebody else. But anyway, yeah, he's going to do a whole front rank of them being withered by fire, which I think is fantastic, as all good French columns should have. Fantastic.
Wow.
Now this was one of the first. This was Dan. This was his.
One
This was his first ever historical painting. He said
he's painted the eyes,
and he's painted the friggin' eyes. I mean,
yeah.
No, Dan is an amazing painter. But if you check out his stuff that he's done for Lord of the Rings and that, so he's a really, really good painter. But yes, I had to sort of double take. I thought there was something just on my screen over the eye. I thought it was just, some grit.
Just ridiculously good.
So he's brought that for CrackCon because he's in the Flames of War game with Stu and Benjamin and a bunch of others. That's his first ever historical. No, he's fallen off the fucking horse.
Anyway, moving on. This is Stephen's Dark Elf. Now, I think this.
Oh, yes.
The lady in the front there was supposed to be part of. Was it the last OPC? I think it was, and he didn't do it in time, so he put it up on the Facebook page. Some very old figure is that? I don't know. I know nothing. It's fantasy stuff. I don't know, but it looks good. I love the pink. Really cool.
Lovely.
Really, really good. Something a bit different, which I really liked, was Andy showing off his railway tracks. Ironclad miniatures railway tracks. I just love it. I don't know, just something about that just got me excited. Weird, I know, but it did. Jonas was working on Ruined Building.
Oh, nice. That kit is so versatile. Excuse me, the Ruined Hamlet set from Warlord. Just so many uses.
Absolutely awesome. Don, he's working on his commandos.
They're very cool.
Well.
Oh, lovely.
He's experimenting with contrast, isn't he?
Yes, he is. They do look really good. So he's done half of them and the other half are almost done, but they look brilliant. Really, really good for those. I love these. This was Gary's Silesian Schützen battalion. And I think he mixed Prussian Jaegers with 95th rifles to produce these fellas. And it's a really nice mixture. I think it works beautifully.
Lovely.
Kevin was a new subscriber to the channel, and he showed off this Vietnam game that he was playing.
I love it.
Awesome.
Just absolutely inspirational, that for a jungle Vietnam game. Just brilliant.
And if you haven't seen the other, there are a whole load of pictures that he put up of this game, and it was just every one of them was just like, ooh.
I could just hear Rise of the Valkyries right now.
Yeah. Ian, look at that orc. That is just classic orc, isn't it? Just brilliant.
Classic orc. That's a good name for it. Classic orc.
Classic.
The PCP
orc.
Beer.
Classic orc.
I love it. Now I think this was Martin's first submission to the page.
Oh yes,
so good.
Is it like
it's 44 millimeters?
44 mil, yeah.
Yes. I love the wood grain on the. I love the whole thing, but especially you look at the wood grain on the blunderbuss.
That's what you call a musketeer. I love it. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. Really good. Graham, I expect to see these at the club fairly soon. These are his 100-Year War English. That's the archers that he's been working on. He's getting ahead of the age of chivalry for Saga that's coming out at some point fairly soon. And he's also playing Lion Rampant with them. So there's all the knights as well. Again, whole selection he showed off on the Facebook page. So check it out.
I love them.
Really cool. Really cool. And I think they're mostly Claymore figures.
I was going to say they're Claymore, aren't they?
Yeah, which are some of the finest medievals.
They're developing their own rule set, Claymore.
There's supposedly yes.
On their Facebook, yeah, there's a Facebook group that you can join where they sort of post up ideas and sort of what they're doing.
Awesome. Nathan, Space Wolves. He said,
"Did you get that by yourself?"
No, he put it on the thing, and I. But
I thought you remembered.
No, I like the black on them.
They're lovely. Do you know what I like about them? The armor is the correct color.
Oh, he said this last week about another light.
Correct. Is there such a thing?
No, there isn't, but there is in my head.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, bear it in mind. You see, that just makes a mockery of what we've been saying.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
You've just ruined the last nearly 2 hours.
That's how I think Space Wolves should look. That color.
Oh, brilliant. Love it. Piers has been working on some of his footsore figures. I mean, look at those.
Just
holy smoke.
Awesome.
Just awesome. Just brilliant. And then some weird shit from Warren.
Yeah. But he's done this for Rangers of Shadow Deep as well, because he plays it. So he just bought that from another company, and there's one mission that requires it's called the Great Burrower or something like that. And then that's the only description you got.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's a carrion crawler from D&D, and he's using it as his burrower thing for Rangers of Shadow Deep. So I know that because he's obviously a clear few games ahead of me in the campaign, so I know that that's in my future.
Oh, brilliant. Sorry, I've lost the picture. There we go. I was so caught up in the button counting. Oh, Steve, I love it. Right. What else we got here? This is more Pikeman's Lament. So this was Richard's. I think he's going to be using them as objectives and things and missions within.
Oh, yes, I saw those.
They're great, aren't they? I think they're
lovely.
Really cool.
Lovely stuff.
That's just reminded me. Have you seen? Sorry, I should have said this earlier. So 2 things. First of all, have you seen that the Great Escape wagon, which is out now for release, you could actually buy it without the cover, the cargo, or the cruise. You can buy just the wagon. Or the horses. But also North Star have, and we talked about this before, they've got their late 19th century people to go on it. So you can have an Anglo-Zulu war one. There's a guy in a Victoria with a pith helmet, and a sort of Zulu guy tracking. You can have Boers in there as well, and Sudan stuff. So I'm definitely thinking of getting a couple so I can have some, so I can lager up the wagons.
Lager up. Lager. Brilliant. These were Paul's very first Napoleonics. I mean, I'd give up now, mate, frankly. That's all I'm going to say. They're French. I mean, why would you?
They are exceptionally good.
They're lovely.
Amazing.
Well done.
Amazing.
There is a drummer. I can see him. I can see the drummer. There we go.
Drummer alert. There is a drummer. Tony was showing off his 7-year war British and lamenting the fact he hasn't got any French to fight against.
That is a lot of lace.
Oh, jeez. They're so lovely, aren't they? But, oh, God, give me palpitations thinking about painting them. Really does.
That looks like every unit would be like painting hussars, which looks amazing and would end me.
Yeah. Completely agree. And then talking about sort of really going all in, Sean was showing off his 15mm painting. I mean, wow, that's a lot of stuff he's been working on there.
Ooh,
that's a lot of kit.
I love those. Talk about stug life.
That is properly good. I don't know whether he's playing it. Was he Flames of War, I wonder, or I don't know. 15mm, whatever they are, but they're lovely. I can see some cheeky epics in the background as well. Lovely job, Sean. And then finally, for now, this is Simon's Bacchus 6mm Sudanese.
Lovely.
Absolutely fantastic.
I mean, I'm not being funny, but I know there's Sudanese, but that you could just say that's Hastings as well.
To be absolutely truthful, you could. You're right. Yeah, you could. I mean, just awesome stuff. So thank you, everybody. Once again, didn't mean to, obviously I can't pick up every picture that was up there, but as I say, go along to the Facebook page and you'll see them all there. There's always some amazing figures and huge variety. So thank you very much indeed. Right, I think we are at the end. Thank you very much, gentlemen, as ever, for the company. And thank you to everybody watching and participating. It's been fabulous. Really appreciate it. Next week
we are with the man, the myth, the legend, Ken. So next week we are.
If the wife lets him out, you mean?
He gave us the inspiring title of what makes the hobby fun. So we shall see how this one goes. But you've had a good portion of photos tonight. So when he forgets to do that next week, it's all right.
You've had your quota.
After, it's the Great Plastic Crack Survey, which will be going live this week, and I'll post a link into the Facebook group. So go along and fill in that as well, and we'll go through the results on the 31st on my channel.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, guys. Thanks for a great week. Really enjoyed it. Nice to be back. We will all see you again next week, hopefully, if Ken's allowed out on his channel. And have a really good week. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
I'll find the outro. Where's the outro? There we go.